The planning meeting provides the opportunity for the Command and General Staff to present the proposed operations plan for the next operational period to the Unified Command. By the time this meeting occurs, the section chiefs should have reviewed the plan and Command notified of any critical resources or controversial issues, so there should be few, if any, changes needed during the meeting, and no one is surprised by the proposed plan. The goal of the planning meeting is to get plan approval from the Unified Command. This meeting is all about getting final support and final buy-in from Command that the plan is implementable, it is supportable, and is going to meet the incident objectives.
Good afternoon, it's 1500. I'd like to bring the planning meeting to order. I'd like to start with a reminder that we are going to follow our ground rules. We've got an agenda, no sidebar conversations, one speaker at a time. Please silence all of your electronics, no texting, and please have lids on your drinks. Let's do a quick roll call. Start with public information and just your name, please, this time.
Sam Watkins.
Marty Sheen. James Baldwin.
Captain Holridge.
Jim Allister.
Brad Nelson.
Pat Gill.
Bob Klink.
Lieutenant Montoro.
Frank Gaines.
Kevin Martin.
And George Dotlow, your planning section chief. Okay, Command, can we get some opening remarks, please?
Sure. Look, the entire incident management team has done a great job thus far. And as a result, we've completed the search and rescue operations and we're transitioning quickly into the environmental response and salvage phase of the operation. As always, we want to minimize the impact to the environment and we want to reopen the marine transportation system as quickly as possible. Now, our stakeholders are very pleased with the Command's efforts, and the media is also giving us high marks. Most of all, we want to be safe and we want to prevent further injuries. So let's do our best to keep it that way. I want to also offer up to please continue to look after your responders in the field. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Command. Situation, can we get an update on where we are at this point?
Good afternoon. This briefing is current as of 1500 and all of the information is unclassified. As you're aware, at approximately 4:10 this morning, the motor vessel Sun Cruise hit a submerged object thought by the crew to be a partially submerged 40-foot cargo container, ripping a hole in the fuel tank towards midships on the vessel. Shortly afterward, a fire erupted somewhere below the secondary muster station, and it was followed by an explosion. The vessel is a 350-foot casino ship with 500 passengers and 23 crew on board. The initial response effort concentrated on search and rescue. That effort has been completed and all personnel have been accounted for with no further injuries. The vessel is believed to have a hull breach in the vicinity of the number 1 and number 2 fuel tanks. Fires are burning in the engine room and the surrounding areas. There may also be some damage up in the forward sections of the vessel from the fire. Fuel is spilling from the ruptured fuel tanks and it appears it will need a multi-day effort to mitigate the environmental hazard from the fuel. The vessel continues to smolder slightly. The extent of the fire damage throughout the vessel remains unknown, but it's likely that the entire engine room area and spaces nearby have significant damage. We haven't accessed those areas due to the heat and the residual fires in the engine room. The vessel is still considered hot, and as I mentioned, we haven't been able to access those spaces to determine the status and the actual damage. During the past several hours, a small squall blew through and caused the vessel to foul the 2 anchors that had been dropped, and the vessel subsequently drifted and is aground between buoys 4 and 6 just outside of the entrance channel. The squall dispersed much of the diesel fuel that had leaked from the vessel. However, fuel continues to leak and move on shore to the west and northwest areas of the vessel's location. It's estimated that about 20% of the fuel that was on board the vessel has escaped. The safety zone remains in place. An occasional media helicopter attempts to collect updated video, and there's still heavy media interest and requests for information continue to come in. The temporary flight restriction also remains in place. The weather on scene currently is southeast Winds very light, seas are 1 to 2 feet, air temperature is 68 degrees, and visibility is approximately 8 miles. Tonight's weather is predicted to be southeast winds at 3 knots, seas 1 to 2 feet, air temperature 62 degrees, visibility of approximately 10 miles with a 10% chance of showers. That's the current situation as we have it. Are there any questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Okay, Command, per our earlier discussion, our decisions, limitations, and constraints have not changed. Is that correct? Our priorities remain safety and health of involved persons, the environment, restoration of the transportation infrastructure, and property. Those have not changed either.
No other changes?
As you heard from Commander Nelson during his opening comments, the search and rescue objective was completed, and Command also added a new objective to conduct the investigation into the cause of the incident. Are there any other objectives that have changed?
No other objectives have changed.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to ask operations to present the plan for the next operational period.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, Command. Just like to echo what members of the incident management team and the command already said, that it's been a great team effort so far. As I said, search and rescue has been completed, and that was with full accountability and no loss of life, so that's good to report. We do have that fire still burning in the engine room. We've been unable to access the engine room at this point, so we're focusing on some of our tactics and our operations on that. We also have the fuel oil that's spilling, so a lot of our tactics are focused towards mitigating that threat as well. At this point, I'd like to go over the operational plan that we have developed. We spent the last few hours developing an operational plan to meet your operational objectives. So I'd like to start with your operational objective A, which is continue firefighting and ensure the spaces are cleared for fire, and then conduct overhaul. I've assigned that objective to the firefighting and salvage group. Also in that same group is B, conduct a damage and stability assessment and develop a salvage plan. The firefighting and salvage group will be assigned firefighting teams to extinguish and overhaul the fire. We're going to assign a salvage engineering response team members to board and complete this damage assessment and vessel stability assessment, as well as coordinate that assessment information with the planning section sheet so that he can develop the salvage plan. Operational objective C will be assigned to Division A. I'd just like to point out that Division A will be in the Haynes Point area. So taking C, which is determine the oil spill fate and effect, we're going to identify threatened environmentally sensitive areas, develop strategies for protection, and conduct pre-impact shoreline debris removal. Taking C, and like I said, assign that to Division A. Also in Division A is operational objective D, which is establish shoreline security to coincide with pre-impact assessment. C and D inside Division A will have shoreline cleanup assessment teams assigned so they may assess the volume of work to be performed and mark the shoreline areas for cleanup. We're also going to use hand crews to perform pre-impact shoreline debris removal, and we're also going to assign local law enforcement to conduct and restrict any security issues and restrict access to Division A. Operational objective E will be continue to enforce on-water safety zone. Operational objective E will be inside the on-water safety group, and we'll have them assign some resources to enforce a 1-mile safety zone around this particular vessel on a 24/7 basis. Operational objective F was contain the source of spill and prepare to remove the volume of the spill. Operational objective F will be assigned to the oil recovery group. The oil recovery group will coordinate with the salvage division, and they're going to identify if there's any further leaking. We're going to prevent oil from contact with the shoreline by booming off the vessel and staging resources so that we can employ any anticipated booming strategies needed. We're also going to recover oil on the water with the priority of the areas where there may be potential shoreline impact. They will also have a decontamination unit assigned with them. And then operational objective G was conduct the investigation into the cause of the incident. Operational objective G will be in the investigation group. They're going to have Coast Guard and fire department personnel investigate to determine the cause of the incident. Also set up a Thumbs Point staging area. We're going to stage resources there in support of the operation and to also respond to any contingencies that may come up. Maybe the weather or a possible evacuation due to the stability of the vessel. We're going to have them in a response capacity that they maintain a 5-minute response readiness. Looking at my operational organizational chart, I have myself as the operations section chief. The state has assigned a deputy operations section chief for me as well. I have a staging area manager overseeing Thumbs Point staging. We have a firefighting and salvage group, Division A, an on-water safety group, an investigation group, and an oil recovery group.
All right, Ops, if there are no other questions for Ops, before you sit down, can you help me validate that the objectives established by command have been met by your plan? A is the firefighting objective.
And A is assigned to the firefighting salvage group.
B is the damage stability objective.
B also in the same group.
C is the pre-impact shore debris removal objective.
C is assigned to Division A.
D is the shoreline security objective.
And D is also in Division A.
E is the on-water safety zone objective.
E is in the on-water safety group.
F is the contain the source of the oil spill objective.
And F is in the oil recovery group.
And G is the investigation objective.
And G is inside the investigation group.
Okay, so Command, I think you can see that all of your objectives are being met by the plan that Operations has established. All right, thank you, Operations. At this point, I'd like to ask documentation to cover any outstanding tasks on the ICS 233.
Sure. We just have a few open actions that are due by the end of the day. Firstly, liaison officer, the stakeholder outreach plan. Do you have any updates on that?
That plan has been created and submitted to Command for approval. Yep.
And we also have for the public information officer and logistics section chief establish a joint information center by 1800 today.
Yes, we're going to be able to complete that by 1800, so it'll be all stood up.
Also for logistics, establish secure communications at the incident command post.
Secure Comms is up and running, and we'll have the plan out to everyone very shortly.
And lastly, also logistics, the radio repeater for communications.
The radio repeater is being installed now, and it'll be operational before it starts the operational period.
All right, thanks, documentation. At this point, I'd like to conduct a round robin with the staff to see if we can address any other issues that you may have remaining. I'd like to start with finance.
Commander Nelson, before you leave today, I have some pollution removal funding authorizations for you to sign.
Roger that.
All right, thanks, finance and logistics.
Security is up and running at the staging area and the incident command post. We also have badging in place for the equipment. Communications should be up and running before the start of the operational period. And I'll get you copies of my comms plan, my medical plan, and the other related plans shortly after this meeting.
Okay. Public information?
Yes, media interest is still very high, so we are planning to escort any of the media that's going out to the scene to see the operations, and also discuss that issue with your division group supervisors at the ops brief.
Okay.
As well as we'll have an updated media briefing ready for you here in a couple hours.
Okay, thank you. Liaison?
Yes, Command, we've established a working relationship with all of our assisting and cooperating agencies. Also, the engagement with the stakeholders, all the comments that we've received back from them have been positive. And then also earlier today, we established comms with the Navy. They're aware of the incident and also with the issues with the waterway.
All right, safety.
Yeah, the area of my greatest concern is with the firefighting and salvage group. I'm discussing with operations, and we're going to have the crews that are working aboard the Sun Cruise and the standby vessels ready to evacuate if the weather turns or the vessel stability comes into question. Additionally, we've assigned an assistant safety officer to work with the firefighting salvage group, and he'll have the ability to stop any unsafe operations while out there. Other than that, there have been no responder injuries, which is good news. And of course, as with everything, you know, working around the hazardous materials with the oil recovery and things like that, safety's on high with them, and it seems to be working.
Great. Okay, safety, can you support the plan?
Yes.
Liaison, can you support the plan?
Absolutely.
Public information, can you support the plan?
Yes.
Logistics, can you support the plan?
Yes, we can.
And Finance, can you support the plan?
Yes.
All right, Command, you've heard the plan as presented by Operations, and your staff can support the plan. Can you support the plan as presented?
And you've got our approval for the plan. We'll be standing by to review it prior to the ops brief.
Okay, Command, do you have any final comments before we head toward adjourning the meeting?
Yeah, in closing, I just want to say, keep up the great work, everyone. Continue to look after your people in the field and stay on top of this situation.
Okay. In preparation for development of the incident action plan, we're heading toward a 1700 ops brief. It's about 15:30 at this point. Command, how much time do you need to review this first incident action plan?
We'll need about a half an hour to do that.
Okay, we'll do our best to get it to you by about 1600. Logistics, I need your medical plan, comms plan, transportation plan, traffic plan if you're going to get me one. Safety, I've got your safety plan at this point, so we're good to go. Are there any alibis before we adjourn the meeting? All right, the next brief is going to be the operations brief at 1700, and the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.